characters in the Uncharted film too different from the game? Fair warning before we get started, as per usual, this will be a spoiler-filled review. So if you carry on watching, this is your spoiler warning. If you have not seen Uncharted, this video does include lots of spoilers for that, as I'll be talking through the plot, the character development, and all of the things. I'll also be touching base a little bit on the games. So this is your spoiler warning. You may already be aware, but I have started playing through the Uncharted games, starting with the first one, Drake's Fortune, here on the channel, which, if you fancy it, cheeky little card up there, or it's down in the description below, because I have no prior knowledge of the Uncharted universe. I have no prior knowledge of any of the characters, nor who they were prior to starting to play the game. So I thought it'd be good to get a little bit of gameplay in before I went to see the film. Turns out I only managed to play an hour of the game before I went to see the film, so really I was kind of going into it blind. But the biggest thing for me, which was really interesting, I watched the interview with Tom Holland before I went to see the film, where he explained they tried to make Nathan Drake more, I don't know, human, moral, less of a random killing machine, because obviously in the game, if you've seen my play, we're there now. It's a slight spoiler for the game, but it is a third-person shooter, so you do end up killing a lot of people with no real malice apart from, well, with a lot of malice to be fair, with no real reasoning apart from they're trying to kill you. So it's like kill or be killed. We turn into Flowey from Undertale. So it's very interesting to have the character that they develop in the films kind of be so different from the character in the games, because there's no explanation. And I've only played 3 hours now of the first game, so there maybe is explanation further into the franchise that I haven't got to yet, and I will get to, because I am going to play them all on the channel, because I'm absolutely loving it, and I'm getting better at it, which is super exciting. And sorry, I won't gush about the game, but if you're interested in Uncharted, do think about hitting that subscribe button, because I will be playing through all 4 games, plus the additional extra ending thingy, Lost Legacy for Thieves End as well. So do keep your eye on the channel for that stuff if you're interested. So maybe it's explained later on in the franchise, I don't know, but you kind of start the game with a suitcase with guns in it and straight off the bat shooting people. So to have this character that's slightly juxtaposed from the character we know in the game was a little bit confusing for me in the film. Same goes for Victor Sully, Mark Wahlberg's character as well. He seems to be a rich millionaire with lots of funds and stuff, but when you start Uncharted, Sully just talks about how much debt he's in and why he needs to get this score in finding the City of Lost Gold. So it's interesting that they did that. Obviously it's a prequel film, right? So there is a gap. What you'd assume is a gap. And the reason I say that is because if you hung around for the post-credit scene, because yes, Uncharted does that, we have 2 apparently. Well, technically, one of them is like right off the end, and the other one is kind of a mid-credits roll, and then past that there's nothing else. Just for anyone who hasn't seen it, who decided they wanted spoilers, don't hang around until the end, because there's no end credit scene, it's a mid-credit roll. But that mid-credit roll is a prequel clip to the start of Drake's Fortune, which makes sense, because if they're trying to make a film franchise out of this, they're going to follow on the path as we know it through the games, because that is the future path of these characters, right? But it's also really interesting because they were very keen to be like, Tom Holland is the young Nathan Drake, he's not trying to take over from Nolan North, who voices and sort of plays Nathan Drake in the games. It's not a takeover, it's not like this is one version of Drake, this is another. I don't know why I keep calling him Drake, but go with it, you know who I'm talking about, Nathan Drake. And for all of that stuff that I'd read or heard before going to see the film, it was weird then to kind of have that spun on its head with the prequel clip to the first game being at the end of this with Tom Holland as Nathan Drake and Mark Wahlberg as Victor Sully, right? Or Sullivan. So it was really odd the way they did that, in my opinion, and it kind of, it's gonna be difficult if that's the path they're going for, if this film, which I assume will be very successful because it was very, very good. Let me caveat that. Very good film, really enjoyed it, had a mega amazing time. Liked the little nods for the little things I picked up of Nathan Drake from the game already, seeing that through. I'm going to enjoy playing the game now, as I'm probably going to find little nods that were thrown back to the games in that film that I just don't know yet because I haven't played all the games. So that's going to be fun to discover. But it just, It just confuses me how we're going to get from the Tom Holland Nathan Drake to the Nolan North Nathan Drake for the next film, if indeed they don't. I thought the film series would stick to prequel films because that gave them a lot of time to play with. We don't know where the Uncharted film sits in terms of timeline, with the games. They have plenty of room to play with there. So throwing in that post-credit scene that sets up Uncharted Drake's Fortune, it kind of obliterates all of that space, if you will. They've kind of pigeonholed themselves of, right, okay, if we're going for a sequel, well, they haven't pigeonholed themselves, but it seems like if they did a sequel and it wasn't Drake's Fortune, it would feel a little odd that they added that post-credit scene in where they did. Why do it at all? That'll be interesting to see what they do with the franchise moving forwards in terms of a film. I know the game run is kind of done. They are not planning on making any more games. Well, they say that, but the story itself is supposedly done. Obviously, I don't know because I've not played them. Although, yeah, here's a continuity issue. Tiny spoiler for the game if you've not played it or not seen me play it, but when basically Nathan and Sully are looking for the City of Lost Gold in a jungle, run around a lot, trying to find it, end up finding a German U-boat in the middle of the jungle. On that German U-boat, Nathan finds the map that he has in that he's bargaining for in that post-credit scene at the end of the film. So how does he find the map on the U-boat if he already has the map? And if he already has the map, it's assumed that that happens in the middle of the game? That post-credit sequence no longer makes any sense to me. Having played what I've played of the game, where it fits, how it fits. I mean, the films could very easily go off on their own tangent and not follow the games, but that would be an odd choice considering they're very story-driven, narrative-heavy, character development-heavy games. So it's kind of a film in itself. So I don't know why they would deviate. And also, that's going to really annoy Uncharted fans if you take their game and change it for Hollywood. It's also really interesting to think that some people's first introduction to Nathan Drake is going to be Tom Holland, not Nolan North. So that's an interesting thought. Just continuity-wise and where it fits doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Obviously, Chloe Fisher, I don't know who that is. I didn't know who that was. I think she comes in a later game because I've seen her name flash up a couple of times in looking for later games. So I don't really know who she is. She's not in Drake's Fortune as far as I've played. Maybe she shows up later, but I quite liked her. I think the character treating, the casting in this film were really good. No one felt out of place. Mark Wahlberg to me is a very Marmite actor. I'll either love him in what I'm watching him in or I'll hate him. There's no real in between. And he does some odd comedies as well sometimes that are a bit questionable, but I really liked him in this. I thought he played the part of Sully well. Like I said, it was just a little bit juxtaposing to me because the introduction I'd already had to Sully was that he was this airplane pilot or helicopter pilot, or pilot would probably be a better word for that was down on his luck, tight for money, trying to skimp around the systems to find gold, to sell gold, to make fortune. I didn't foresee him as a high-flying rich guy just looking for another payout. So it was a bit of a weird, but again, I kind of went into it thinking this is a prequel before the film, before the game, sorry. So maybe he had fortunes and lost it, and that's why he's where he's at the end, the beginning of Drake's Fortune, the game. I'm doing a lot of comparing between the game and the film, and I think that's, what's going to happen with this film because it is based on a game series, because they are characters that people already know. Going the prequel route, I think, was perfect. I think it was definitely a good idea because, again, as I say, one, if you'd tried to copy-paste Drake's Fortune, the first game, into a film, there would have been things that were different. Gaming fans would have, if they'd tried to change anything, the gaming fans would have been annoyed with it. You kind of would have had to go into it with a pre-knowledge of the game series, of the franchise. Whereas this was a nice entry point. It felt nice that it had these throwbacks and these knock-ons to the game series, but there was enough new stuff and introduction to the characters that you didn't feel completely out of the loop going into the film not knowing anything about the franchise, right? I think they struck that balance very well. There was enough fan service in there, but enough to allow new fans to come on board as well and enjoy these characters and enjoy the story. I'm intrigued why I kind of hope they don't. If they do a sequel, I really hope they don't do Drake's Fortune. I want them to play in the sand pit they've made for themselves, if you will. I want them to take the opportunity, let the games progress the story, right? You could have this thing set 5, 10, 15 years before the first game, and then you've got this area where you can go and they can go searching for new treasures, they can go looking for beating new bad guys. You can introduce Roman into it as well, because he wasn't mentioned at all in the film, and you can slowly bring that. I mean, he was mentioned in that post-credit scene that's confused the hell out of me, but I kind of wish they hadn't done that. I did feel when I was watching it they were going to end it leading into Drake's Fortune, leading into the first game. That's just how it kind of felt like it was going, the position they were leaving people at. I thought what was going to happen was that someone from the auction was going to contact Sully and be like, yo, you bid a lot of money on this cross and you stole it, so we need you to pay for it. You owe us 1.2 million or whatever it was in the end that he ended up. And that's how he was in the debt, and that's why he was like, Nate, mate, we gotta go and get some more treasure, because like I owe people a lot of money and I need to pay that off. And then some twisted backwards roundabout way, like use a post-credit scene to introduce that Roman is connected to the auction house somehow, and that he was selling off this cross because he knew it would lead someone to treasure and he's interested in it too, right? There was just a different way about that. I think they could have looped in the games that made more sense. I absolutely loved the film. I thought it was great. I thought the acting was wonderful. I thought the casting was good. I liked the characters. None of the development felt weird or off. There felt like there was a lot left to explore with the characters going backwards. Like Sully, there's a lot of, I mean, I'm probably going to learn a lot of Sully's backstory in playing the games, which I'll certainly finish before another film comes out, but there's a lot about Sully we don't know. There's a hell of a lot about Chloe we don't know. There was like this little unit of treasure hunters that seem to all know each other and work together, but also double cross each other at any given opportunity, right? Why were they like that? What's the trust issues going on there? And then this kind of introduction of Nathan, who is more trusting, more open, more interested in finding the treasure to find the treasure, not necessary for the monetary value. And that was quite a nice friction point. Like there was the moment where he left the fake coordinates for Chloe and she went the wrong way. She could have been better. He gave her the option to be better and she took her old path, which showed her character hadn't really grown at all, which is why she completely missed out on the last 20 minutes of the film and got sent a dummy, if you will. And I thought that was really clever, using Nathan Drake as kind of the catalyst to that. So I really liked what they did. I really liked how they brought the characters in, the character development they had, the way they introduced them. A lot of focus on Sam, Drake's brother, who I know is in the fourth game. But that's it. That's all I know. And I kind of felt like maybe that's how they forced themselves to have to follow into Drake's Fortune, because I don't know the story of Sam. I don't know how he comes about. I don't know how he comes into it. I don't know when he's met or whatever. I know nothing. So if you do not spoil it down in the comment section, please, because I'm playing through those games. I'd like to learn it organically. But there's a whole load of stuff there that could be investigated, like they could be on another treasure trove, or there could have been something that, because obviously I sat there and went, well, Sam's not dead because he's in the fourth game, and this is pre all of that stuff. But I feel like there would have been a nice way to like introduce Sam is still alive, like drop that little hint or that little breadcrumb, and then you could have done a film doing anything where they could be off looking for the eye of Taj Mahal lost in the Pacific Ocean. And they could have been searching for anything, and like while you're running around, or like another one of the postcards revealed something like, I'm not actually dead. Oh no, wait, we did have that. That was the post. Well, we know as the audience, sorry. That's what the other post-credit scene was Sam sat in the cell, writing letters to Nathan to try and to tell him he was still alive and that everything was okay, and hoping that he was getting them, blah blah blah. I kind of wish, like, or even rather than show us Sam writing them, show us Nathan getting one of them, like returning home after all of the stuff he's been doing with Sully, open the front door, oh, there's a postcard, this is weird, why am I getting a postcard from Sam? He's dead, turns it over, hope you're all okay, I'm still alive. S. You know, that would have been the more intriguing way to do it, because that way you set yourself up, in my opinion, for many more films in that gap before the games start. It is a film made on the premise of a video game, so you're gonna be focusing on the video game element, how it kind of brought through to that, how it links into the story, especially with a game that's so story driven as Uncharted is. But I hope you found that interesting. Do let me know your thoughts about Uncharted if you have been to see it, what you think they're gonna do if/when they do a sequel, and whether they're gonna run straight into Drake's Fortune or if they're gonna have a little bit more of a play in the sandbox before we go. Please, no spoilers for any of the Uncharted games. That is all 4 of them, quotation marks 5 of them, because I am currently in the middle of playing the first one. I really am enjoying playing them, and I want to see that story unveil itself organically, so please don't spoil the games. I see all the comments. I have no one who goes through this stuff for me, so if you put it in there, I do see it. I see all of the comments. I respond to most of the comments. So if you do put spoilers in there, I can't avoid them. So I really would appreciate you not spoiling the games, but talk to your life's content about the film, because that I have seen all the way through. But do let me know your thoughts, comments, theories, and all the rest of that good stuff down in the coffee pot below, and I will see you down there to carry on this conversation. But for now, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. It's been an absolute blast as always. If you enjoyed this video, go show that like button some good old-fashioned love. And if you want to support the channel, go hit subscribe and ring that bell so you don't miss next time I upload a video. Stay awesome, and I will see you all in the next video! I'm actually a sucker for treasure hunt films. Some of my favorites, National Treasure, I wish they made a 3rd. Loved this one. Love a good treasure hunt film. Apparently, it's my go-to genre.